Nikon has just announced the D850, which is super exciting because, especially with the release of the 16 Mark II, there's a lot of people looking for full frame options that provide a big suite of features that are going to give them great results with good lens lineups. I mean, this is the perfect time for Nikon to be releasing what looks like is going to be a fantastic camera. I don't know if y'all have seen, okay. Hey friends, thanks for joining me in this video. Today we're going to be talking about the Nikon D850 that Nikon's just announced. So part of the reason why this is so exciting, I don't know if y'all have seen the teaser trailer they kind of made for it, but the big feature that they're touting right now is 8K time-lapse. So you know it's at least 30 megapixels, right? Because 30 megapixels is 8K. The D810, the D800, the D800E were all 36 megapixels. So this is going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to exploring with you what I anticipate the features and specifications to be and why I think that. I'm going to take kind of a historical view, kind of do a deep dive into where it's come from and where it might be going, so that we can be educated and be a little bit more sure as we take the next step with Nikon. So let's start from the beginning. The D800 was first of its kind in terms of ultra high resolution cameras at 36.3 megapixels. Full frame sensor, by the way. It had dual card slots, compact flash and SD up to SD-XC. Had a native ISO up to 6400, and an expanded ISO up to 25,600. Could shoot video in 1080p 30, and it weighed nearly a kilo. Now at the time, there was almost nothing that could compare to the D800, and it really, in a lot of ways, was a fantastic offering by Nikon. Now the thing is that the D800E came out with a couple of changes. There's nothing really in terms of like baseline specs that the D800E fixes. So when we're moving from the D800, D800E, D810 to look forward to the D850, it's important to note that, you know, in those first two steps, almost nothing changed. Now at the D810, you get another stop up to 12,800 ISO native. You keep the pixel count. You get 51 AF points. 15 of those are cross type, by the way. You get 1/8,000th of a second shutter, which is a little bit loony in my view in terms of how crazy fast that is. Had 1080p 60. So from the D800E to the D810, there were functionally very few changes. A lot of what happened was 1080p 60 up from 1080p 30. There were also some ergonomic changes. There were some ISO performance increases. There were, a lot of just really kind of basic things that didn't really move the product forward much. It kind of maintained the status quo. And what Nikon did at the exact same time as they released the D810, yeah, that's what it's called. At the same time that Nikon released the D810, they also pulled the D800 and the D800E, so that was the camera that you were supposed to buy if you wanted that particular camera that Nikon offered. So the thing is that through these product releases, not much is changing within that product line, but a lot of the market is changing around it. And since the D810 got released a couple years ago, a lot more has changed in the market, and so that's where we want to go next. So I very strongly feel like the D850 has got to have at least 42 megapixels, maybe up to 50. I think it needs to be on par with both the A7R II and the 5DS, 5DSR in terms of resolving power. The D810 is known for its exceptional dynamic range at its very low native ISO of 64. So if we can keep that really low dynamic range, really high dynamic range at really low ISO, that would be fantastic. I also want to say that if we could get, better high ISO performance, that'd be great too. If we could get a lot better autofocus system in it, much closer to something like the D5s. I think that would be a huge step forward for that camera as a platform. Nikon's been putting 4K video in everything, which I really appreciate. However, they've oftentimes put that 4K in there with like a pretty severe crop factor. I think what Nikon needs to do is give you an oversampled, maybe not 42 megapixels oversampled, but if it could crop it down to APS-C, for example, and then oversample that image to 4K to make it really crystal clear and sharp, give you loads of detail. I think that's what Nikon needs to do with the 4K on this device in order to really start pushing back at Sony, who took their number 2 spot recently, and also to really start pushing at Canon, because Canon is not innovating within the market. They are really pushing to segment their products, and it's really going to hurt them in the long run. So if Nikon can rebuild through effective implementation of features and specs like really good 4K that people are really wanting in their DSLRs, Nikon's going to have an opportunity to pull out of the financial crisis that they're in. Another thing that would be great is if not only do they keep the dual card slots, but if they really kind of push that forward. The D5 has dual XQD card slots as an option, and I feel like an XQD card slot is really important. That is seeming to turn into the new standard in a lot of ways. So if that can get implemented in this camera, that would be a really great second card slot. I think much better than CFast 2.0. I'm going to say what everybody already knows, and that is that a tilty flippy touchscreen, or at the very least an articulating touchscreen, would be great to have, period. And it hasn't been on that product line yet, and so if they can put it on there, that would be great. I've heard loads of terrible things about Nikon SnapBridge stuff, how hard it is to set up. Well, once you set it up, it's great, but how hard it is to set up. So if there would be a way to enhance the facility of use to set in setting it up, that they can get on the ground floor with the D850, that'd be fantastic. Obviously, there's going to be 8K time lapse as well, because that's the feature that they've demoed in the product reels so far. I want to get to that here in a minute. The D5 also has backlit illuminated controls, which would be a really sweet feature to be able to have on this device. I don't think it's remotely necessary. I operate all my cameras in all conditions based on muscle memory, so I think that you should be able to as well. But it would be cool. I think that would be a way to further differentiate Nikon from other competitive offerings. And now I want to kind of talk about the demo reel that they put out, because that looked like it was 4K. If it wasn't 4K, it was damn fine 1080. It was the best 1080 I've ever seen in my life. It was all shot on the D850. It looked like beautiful 4K. It was all like at night. There was the 8K time lapses, but the proper video. But it was so clean. It felt like that ISO performance was so on par with much more with cameras much closer to an ideal of the A7S. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but it seems like they might just be able to take Sony's 42 megapixel sensor and put it in there. That would be fantastic. Tweaking it like they did the original sensor that they bought off of Sony for the D810 for that low ISO dynamic range. If they could do that again for ISO performance in some way, that'd be fantastic. And it looks like that's what they did, because that video quality was just excellent. I could see no noise in the plurality of shadows, and I was really blown away by the fine detail that I could still discern in the shadows. So I think we're going to get really good dynamic range out of it. One of the things that I forgot to mention in the D810 that was an upgrade from the D800, D800E was the implementation of a flat picture profile. So I fully expect that we'll see another better implementation of a flat picture profile for video recording in the D850, and I think it might even be like a log profile. I think that'd be great, especially if they didn't make you pay for it. I think the 8K time lapse is a huge feature though, right? Because like no one's doing that yet, and so that'd be really, really cool to see come to life. So yeah, that's what I got to say on the subject. Thanks for your time and for your attention. Looking forward to seeing the next one.